I've spent the month since the release of Shadow of the Erd Tree mourning the loss of all my hopes and dreams for Elden Ring's PvP. Having to let go of such things is bitter work, yet I persist for you, the good people of YouTube. But, as I'm doing my weekly duty of hauling content from the deepest reaches of the Elden Mines, I'm faced with a question I ask myself every so often. Is this even fun? More specifically, is Elden Ring PVP fun? I have essentially nothing but complaints, and all my worst fears have been painstakingly realized via the cruel hammer of developer indifference, so I feel compelled to acknowledge how I can justify my efforts. Straight up, it's challenging. I really appreciate what Elden Ring does for PvP in a lot of mechanical facets, but there's no getting past the fact that 4-player matches, a dead arena that was never very good, and no covenants spoil much of the fun. Add to that list how obnoxious I find most of the DLC tools, and I'm hard-pressed to give someone a solid objective reason to pick up Elden Ring PvP. But I still have fun. I like to focus on niche aspects of the game and get as much mileage as I can out of them. You may have noticed I tend to invade primarily low levels, and in particular, using a character with exclusively Limgrave gear. I made a video detailing the build, but the long and short of it is I love the start of games. The limitations, the novelty, I get a lot out of exploring what the most basic aspects have to offer. With Elden Ring especially, my distaste for the higher-end power scaling further incentivizes me to hang out in the lower brackets and go to work with the basics. There are a surprising number of tools you can utilize without ever leaving Limgrave, and doing so helps me to better appreciate the open field. It also helps me to appreciate the host experience. I spent the last week or so making another Limgrave-only character, where I used the Taunter's Tongue and random summons as much as possible. I also let myself be summoned as much as possible. I wanted to get a feel for the other side of PvP, something I seldom experience these days. And much like invading, being invaded is a mixed bag. I ran into builds that absolutely annihilated me, chasing me with relentless tenacity and pointing down my stupid corpse. I also ran into builds that had no business fighting one person, let alone 3. The disparity between complete and early game builds at low level has been further widened thanks to all the new tools of mass destruction from the DLC, meaning my build with the most rudimentary of gear was easily outmatched more often than not. It'd probably have been a different story if I had coordinated with some allies instead of relying on blues and random summons, but hey, I wanted the full experience, and goddammit, I got it. Plus, I was hardly helpless. None of the fights were complete shutouts, and I won my fair share, both as a host and as an invader. Invasions are, as always, a combination of skill, preparation, and willingness to engage. And I had a good time, win or lose. PvP is what keeps this game interesting for me, so I'm down for whatever. I'm perfectly accustomed to having my head kicked in, though I understand others' hesitation. Still, the systematic flaws eat away at a lot of the game time, and that's not something that should be underestimated. Ganking is alive and well to date, and I don't see it getting any better moving forward. Trying to find random summons wasn't always easy, and I imagine it's due to a combination of lower activity and everyone just using a password for overleveled escorts. When invading, for every match I got worthwhile, I suffered just as many under the oppressive thumb of laser-guided missile strikes from across the map. Denying myself counters or the ability to quickly dispatch overleveled guardians is all part of the appeal of my playstyle, but I can't say it doesn't sting. As good as it feels to challenge myself while giving someone an authentic invasion where the odds are well matched, it feels inversely bad to suffer for trying to accommodate that experience. As I said in my build breakdown, I would not recommend it. Unless you are the sort of person who also appreciates a more novel experience. Just know that you have no say over who you interact with, and there's a very good chance they appreciate winning and little else. Not to mention persistent issues like fog walling and how long it can take to find an invasion exacerbate every other obstacle, making them the toughest hurdles for me personally. I can excuse being treated like garbage, but I draw the line at waiting a long time to be treated like garbage. And it's those troubles and triumphs that have given me the most helpful insights into appreciating Elden Ring. Much like every Souls game, you make of it what you can, flaws and all. I like to limit myself in low-level invasions, and Elden Ring lets me do that. Sometimes I like to use stronger gear and exact righteous revenge on the same clowns griefing me into the ground, and Elden Ring lets me do that too. You can get as creative or stagnant with builds as you'd like, and really the only virtue you need is patience. Elden Ring asks a substantial time investment for PvP at any level, and frequently fails to pay it back. You get out what you put in, much in the same way that you do at a casino. But that's all part of the fun. Sometimes you win, often you lose, but you're there for the risk and the thrill. I wish I could say there was more to it, but the truth is there really isn't. Elden Ring is as much hot garbage as it is a monumental work of art. PvP takes those aspects to their absolute extremes, and we have to accept that for what it is. I love to talk about ways it or future games could be improved, but I have arguably no influence over those decisions. It's been clear for a while that FromSoft's interest in this game is entirely exhausted. They've done what they feel appropriate and have moved on to new horizons. And say it with me, that's okay. I want a new game pretty badly. Not because Elden Ring is completely devoid of merit and isn't worth playing, just because it missed crucial marks and, in the process, took a sledgehammer to the ankles of longevity. 6 years was way too long between Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring does not have the same legs. But until we get that new game, we can still explore Elden Ring. We can try new ways to play. If you hate Elden Ring PvP because you're sick of getting ganked, try making the meanest build you possibly can. There are few things more validating than shutting down a 3-man team by way of overwhelming violence. If you can't stand the meta level, try levels 10 to 60. There's nothing dishonest about invading a valid target regardless of level or equipment, because invasions aren't about honor or decency. Those things are for the arena. I promise there's a fun way to play this game, even if it's not as fun as it could be. If you had some other game to play, you'd be playing it. So best to lock in and commit to the bit that is your way of life. I'm doing my best not to descend into madness, and I implore you to do the same. But neither is there anything wrong with abandoning Elden Ring. It's been long enough that if you've tried it and have had your fill, I won't ask you to submit yourself any further. Thank you for your service, and Godspeed. God knows I've put in my time, and if I had somewhere else to go, that's where I'd be. But sadly, Souls games have no true substitutes, and I can only look back as I wait out the future. To that effect, I've purchased a capture card, so I might be giving Demon Souls PvP a try for the first time since the remaster released. And, of course, Bloodborne is on the table. So let me know if and how you're having fun with Elden Ring, or any Souls PvP for that matter. Tell me your sick builds or niche formats that bring you joy in a tarnished world. And tell me what else you want to see me do. We're entering a content dark age for Souls games, and I'm nothing if not stressing. If you watched this far into the video, I'd appreciate your thoughts. Like the video if you liked it and subscribe for more. Until next time, thank you for watching.